Mwalimu Nyerere, Nkrumah, Modibo Keita, Sekou Toure, and maybe Lumumba was killed too early, raised this question and tried to answer it in a correct way. Their voices were, however, smothered by the collaborators, and instead the nebulous OAU was created. In the last 500 years, two good laboratories have emerged on the global stage. Go forward! Go forward! Two laboratories have emerged on the global stage: Latin America and the North American continent. European populations expanded into the two continents of the Americas that were inhabited by Indians of the West. The European populations came from Spain and Portugal to take over Latin America, and from the UK to take over North America. After 500 years, there is great prosperity in North America and misery and poverty in Latin America. Yet in terms of natural resources, water, forests, agricultural land, minerals, etc., Latin America may be richer than North America. What then accounts for the difference? The difference partly emerged from the political economic organization of the two continents. Latin America is excessively fragmented politically and economically, comprised of 12 countries, and if you include the Caribbean, the total number of countries rises to 25. The North American continent, on the other hand, is comprised of only 3 countries: Mexico, the USA, and Canada. The USA is a 3 million square miles unit with a population of 332 million people. It is that big market that stimulated the growth of the USA economy. It is not easy to be a successful business person in Honduras, population 10 million. El Salvador, population 6 million. Panama, population 4 million, etc., on account of the smaller populations. In Latin America, they never even attempted to form a common market like the one of Europe. A common market, however, would not be free of problems of discordance. We have seen Britain walking out of that body, and we have seen the tensions with Hungary, Serbia, etc. Hence, the best formula, if possible, so as to create a framework for guaranteeing prosperity of people, is the USA formula, which entails both political and economic integration. Here in Africa, it points to the creation of the political federations, like the ones of East Africa. Such a federation would not only guarantee the prosperity of the people through a big market, it would also guarantee offtake for producers of goods and services, but it would also ensure strategic security of people. Nobody could dare to threaten their security. They would ensure their 4-dimensional strategic security on land, in the air, at sea, and in space. It would also deal with the problem of the suppressed fraternity of the African peoples. The 54 countries of Africa created by colonialism do not pay the slightest attention to the 4 linguistic groups of Africa. The 4 are the Niger-Congo, the Nilo-Saharan, the Afro-Asiatic, and the Khoisan. These are the 4 clusters of nations based on language. Obviously, the 54 countries do not pay attention to this. Hence, here in East Africa, you find the Interacustrian Bantus of this area, are scattered in Uganda, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Kenya. Yet these are peoples whose dialects are mutually intelligible. Some months ago, at Munyonyo, I found a group of young people seated. When I engaged them, I found they were Kenyans. Of course, it is not easy to know who is a Kenyan and who is a Ugandan by looking at them. You have to ask them. I then asked one of them, a girl, what her name was. Her answer was Kwambuka. Her name was Kwambuka. Eh? Kwambuka. Where do you come from? Was my next question. Her answer, Kisii. Kisii in Kenya, the land of His Excellency, Dr. Ruto. Then my next question was, what does Kwambuka mean in Kisii? I asked the young lady. The answer, it means crossing a river or a valley. The young lady answered. That is exactly what it means in the Runyakitara dialects. You can't believe it. It is not only the Interakisun Bantu that are fragmented in these countries. How about our Luos in South Sudan, Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania? The Kalenjin, Uganda, South Sudan, and Kenya. And the Ateke, South Sudan, Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. When you talk of the Luo, you are talking of the Alurs, Achoris, Langis, Japadola, Luos, Anuak in Ethiopia, Kumam. When you talk of the Kalenjin, you are talking of the Sabine, Pokot, Nandis, Kipsigis, etc. When you talk of the Ateke, you are talking of the Kakwaz, the Bari, the Topotha, the Turkana, the Karamojong, the Itoset, etc. Where do the Maasai belong? Are they Ateke or Kalenjin? Help the author, please. However, I know that they are certainly Nairo-Hamitic. In the case of East Africa, we have the added value, added bonus in the form of the fraternity of the Swahili language speakers. It has therefore been long, ever since the NRM and its precursors started supporting the struggle for the realization of the dream of the East African Federation. If we had achieved that by 1963, as the elders had intended, this part of the world would be very far. Some of the political elite let down Africa in 1963 by frustrating that effort. If that federation had been launched in 1963, you can be sure that Idi Amin would never have taken power in Uganda. There would have been no genocide in Rwanda or the killings in Burundi. Congo would have stabilized long ago. The problem of South Sudan would have been solved much earlier, and the problem of Somalia may not have turned out the way it did. Even today, the sort of problems we are facing would be easily solved. Take the problem, and I'm glad His Excellency Ruto spoke on this. Take the problem of high food prices, for instance. A few years ago, Uganda produced 5 million tons of maize. Uganda consumed only 1 million tons because Ugandans have other foods. It is only institutions and the animal feeds manufacturers that use maize. There was therefore a surplus of 4 million tons, which had no market in East Africa on account of the non-tariff barriers, protectionism. The prices collapsed, and the farmers in Uganda walked away from growing maize. Only now to be told that there is a big demand for maize, and even people are dying. The store of maize is the same as the store of milk, sugar, rice. Some Ugandans wanted me to stop Tanzanian rice. Please, I cannot do that. If the Tanzanians are growing rice cheaply, let them grow it and you buy from them. And if you want, you can apply and you shift and go and ask the Tanzanian government to allow you to do rice in Tanzania. In my opinion, East Africans will be better off if the most efficient East African producers are encouraged so that the whole of the region benefits. Recently, I was told of some attempts to block rice from Tanzania in order to protect the inefficient rice growers of Uganda. I could not accept such blindness. Why? First of all, punish Ugandans to consume expensive rice while Tanzanian brothers can produce cheaper rice. The other blindness is that you should remember that if you block Tanzanian rice, Tanzania will also block something else from Uganda, where then is the future of prosperity for our region. Why block East African products and open our markets for subsidized goods from Europe, China, Brazil, etc.? Those should be the ones to be blocked because they are fairly selling in our market. Foreign government subsidized goods versus our unsubsidized goods. If you allow subsidized Brazilian products to kill the market for Uganda's sugar in East Africa, what return benefits will East Africa get from Brazil? What does Brazil give you in return? East Africa is a potential superpower for India or China. It is economically and politically assisted, fortunately, by the Swahili language, which is part of the heritage of this area. If our economics professors wake up and see the hemorrhage the NRM revolutions have been seeing ever since the 1960s on account of only producing raw materials, and the political class determines not to build a Latin America in Africa, but instead build a United States of Africa in Africa, a very prosperous and secure future for Africa would be ensured. In spite of the missed opportunities in the East African region, and in spite of so many avoidable mistakes that were committed by different actors, Uganda finally stabilized and started not only growing, but also undergoing socio-economic transformation ever since 1986. The small independence enclave colonial economy of 1962, of the 3 C's and 3 T's, had by 1986 shrunk by 25%. The 3 C's were coffee, cotton, and copper, and the 3 T's were tobacco, tea, and tourism. By 1986, all the 3 C's had disappeared except coffee, that was still limping on. All the 3 T's had disappeared except tobacco, which was still limping on. Having lost 24 years, because you are talking of 60 years, actually we should be talking of 36 years. Because 24 of the 60 years we are lost. Having lost 24 years of the 60 years, the NRM, our movement, had fortunately had many years of clarifying our ideological, philosophical, and strategic position on almost all issues of society and economy. We had already distilled our 4 principles of patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. To realize the 4 principles, we put forward the 10 points program, out of which point number 5 was the one guiding us to build an integrated, independent, and self-sustaining national economy that rejected the slave role of confining ourselves to producing raw materials. The principle of patriotism struck a blow at the politics of identity, sectarianism of religion and tribes, and pushed forward the politics of legitimate interests of the people. That is why, ever since 1989, the NRM always won all elections by absolute majority in both popular votes and the electoral colleges on the first round. We have never had a second round here. And I congratulate His Excellency Ruto for winning on the first round. In the 1960s, no party could win by absolute majority because they had fragmented the electorate in sectarian groups that could never attract broad support. Guided by our principle of Pan-Africanism, when we won power, we worked with Mzee Hassan Mwinyi, Mzee Benjamin Mkapa, Mzee Daniel Arap Moi, supported by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who was still alive that time, to revive the East African community, which was re-inaugurated on the 30th of November, 1999. Guided by the same principles, we stood with the African brothers in South Africa, Namibia, South Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia, etc. It is this principle that educates us not to aim at building a Latin America in Africa, but building a United States of Africa in Africa to ensure the prosperity of our people and the strategic security of Africa. Our belief in patriotism and Pan-Africanism enabled us to build a strong national army for the first time since the collapse of the Bourgeois Empire around the year 1500 AD. This is partly on account of the ideology of anti-sectarianism. We do not look at soldiers with sectarian lenses, but with soldiership and ideological lenses for patriotism. That is how we were able to build an army that could go for so long and anywhere for either no pay or low pay. This strong army has been always backed by a vast structure of popular support in the form of the RCs, resistance councils, diluted by the politicians to LOCs. They didn't like resistance, they changed it to that they are local. I also kept quiet. This peace architecture has enabled the economy to recover and thrive. By the end of last financial year, the size of the economy was $45 billion, having grown from $1.5 billion in 1986. The economy had therefore expanded 30 times since 1986, and we had entered the lower end of the middle income status with a per capita GDP of US dollars 1,046. This was in spite of the population growing from 14 million in 1986 to 43 million now. We could have achieved more if it was not for the obstructions we normally get from careerist politicians and administrators or neo-colonial agents. One of the big mistakes has been the refusal by the careerist political administrative class to transform the pre-capitalist traditional society into a food secure and commercial active class with a chibaro, a sabu, looking for the most remunerative enterprises compared to the family land size and generally getting involved in the money economy by the whole society. This is in spite of the guidance we have been giving the country ever since 1995, when I made a countrywide tour, giving facts of what can be done after I had carried out successful transformation in the cattle corridor. On account of this negligence by the political and administrative classes, by 2013, the homesteads that were still in the subsistence sector were 68%, having been 96% in 1969. That is when I involved the army in the form of OW, Operation Wealth Creation. The figures show that there has been a decline in the homesteads that still work for the stomach. With the parish development model and the Myoga, not forgetting the bigger industrialization and modernization programs, we are sure to finally involve all the homesteads in the money economy. We have sent money to the parish circles and to the Myoga. This is going to unleash massive production of food, beverages, other raw materials that must be processed by factories. Moreover, agriculture will now be firmly anchored on irrigation. Therefore, the erraticness of production in agriculture is over. This in turn means the damage to the water bodies must stop because we need the water for irrigation. Out of the 60 million acres of Uganda, 8.9 million are covered by water bodies and wetlands. And assuming we have forests covering 30% of the country, that will leave us 15.3 million acres for agriculture. If 10 million acres were used for intensive agriculture of the 4 acres model, that would give us 2.5 million small farms. In the Ruengaju area, our small-scale farmers using only 1 acre are employing 15 people per farm. Using this conservative figure, the 2.5 million small farms would employ 37.5 million people. Assuming the other 5 million acres were for medium-scale farming, using farms of 100 acres each, we should have 50,000 farms. These, in addition to the intensive agricultural activities of the small farms, would use extensive agriculture to produce maize, sugarcane, cotton, tea, tobacco, etc., products that only make economic sense when they are produced on a large scale. These would create their own jobs. All this is just in agriculture. How about industry, manufacturing? How about services? How about ICT? The problem, therefore, is not jobs. The problem is the neo-colonial thinking that is always off the point and not able to understand the strong potential of Africa. Now that we have solved the problem of electricity, we are moving full steam on all the opportunities of the value addition in agro-processing, fruit processing, animal feeds for maize, cassava flour and starch, banana flour and starch, ethanol from different sources, etc., paper from forest products, sealing boards from forest products, vertical integrated steel industry, food processing of copper, fertilizer industry from our phosphates, the pathogenic economy of vaccines and pharmaceuticals, and the diagnostics and sanitizers, and the knowledge industry of automobiles and electronics, as you saw here, these which are already being made here. With our East African brothers and sisters, the sky is the limit. Recently, I'm about to finish Munange miaka nkaga. 60 years, please, muzikirize, allow me. Munikubali miaka 60, sio kitu rahisi. Wacha nitoa maneno yote. Recently, there was yet another manifestation of imperialistic arrogance and hegemonism by elements in the European Parliament, whereby they decreed from Brussels that East African crude pipeline should not be constructed until those arrogant actors permit us to do so. Parasitic elements from that part of the world have been causing problems for Africa and the world for the last 500 years. It all started with 1453 AD, when the Turkish Ottomans captured Constantinople and blocked the land route for Europe to the east for trade in silk, spices, etc. The Europeans, led by Portugal, legitimately started looking for an alternative sea route to the east to outflank the blockade, partly due to our internal weaknesses caused by the bankrupt tribal chiefs. What started as a search for alternative route to the east soon became a mega slave trading phenomenon: colonialism, exploitation, looting, and genocide in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. By 1900, the whole of Africa had been colonized except for Ethiopia. However, soon, the Africans and other colonized peoples reorganized and launched a massive anti-colonial movement in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the struggle for equal rights by the Black nation in the USA. The African National Congress was founded in South Africa in 1912. By 1994, the arrogant imperialists were defeated in South Africa. Earlier on, the colonized peoples had achieved victories in Indonesia, India, Indochina, Mozambique, Kenya, Algeria, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and the whole of Africa, either through armed struggle or through peaceful mass struggle. 1994, with the liberation of South Africa, should have marked the end of imperialist arrogance and meddling in the affairs of their former victims. However, some elements are incorrigible, as you can see from this resolution. The patriotic forces in the world are, however, much stronger, and the patriotic forces in Uganda are much stronger and very capable in all dimensions. The imperialists use the mistakes and the weakness of Africa. Otherwise, Africa is invincible, as was shown by the victories in Mozambique, Angola, and Zimbabwe. East Africans, therefore, should not worry about those arrogant people, that those arrogant people can stop the oil project in East Africa. If any actor tries to delay our project, we shall decisively deal with that betrayal according to the relevant laws. We shall develop all the aspects. Initially, I was not interested in the pipeline. I was only interested in the refinery to produce petrol, diesel, aviation fuel for East African market. It is Total who insisted, even when Uganda had to give away US dollars 20.7 per barrel to use the pipeline. In the end, we support the pipeline because it contributes something modest to our Tanzanian sisters and brothers who, under Mwalimu's leadership, contributed so much to Africa, including Uganda, in the anti-colonialism effort. Besides, the pipeline corridor provided by the Tanzanian government will bring to us gas from Tanzania and Mozambique because our gas resources are not that big. We need gas for fertilizer manufacture, to produce chemicals, etc. Therefore, down with the imperialist parasitic measures. However, Africa should know that even during the anti-colonial struggle, we had progressive whites that were on our side. Lord Fenner Brockway, Sir Dingo Food, Professor George Shepard, etc. worked with Museveni Msazi in our anti-colonial struggle. Even today, there are progressive forces in Western Europe who can work for the common good of humanity, who are not part of white chauvinism. We shall seek them out. Most importantly, the oil project and other projects are unstoppable. The NLM has always had a correct philosophical, ideological, and strategic grasp of all issues. Nothing can derail us, in spite of the good movement in the world to curb the emissions of the greenhouse gases and move away from oil as fuel for cars. Our oil will remain valuable. We shall still need the oil for textiles like the shirt I normally put on. It is 65% polyester, which is from oil. We need hydrocarbons for fertilizer, nitrogen, for plastics, for tar, for our roads. As you saw, we are moving on the electric vehicles, electric pickies, using hydrogen for steel manufacture, etc. However, our oil will remain useful for other non polluting purposes. All living things have carbon in them. Carbon is not a problem. The problem has been greed of foreigners who jump from this to that looking for money without careful and honest study. Before the coming of foreigners, Africa was using solar energy, wind energy, etc. for drying things, processing millet, and using carbon for blacksmithing in a controlled way. With the more understanding of natural laws, science, if we would do away with greed, all these products can be used safely and sustainably. When oil will no longer be needed for driving cars, it will serve us longer for use for other purposes. I thank everybody. In particular, I thank their excellencies, His Excellency Ndaishimie, President of Burundi and Chairman of the East African Community, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, President of South Sudan, His Excellency Sheikh Mahmoud, President of the Republic of Somalia, His Excellency William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. Ali Mwinyi, President of Zanzibar, and the Chairman of the Revolutionary Council representing the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, His Excellency Ebua Jean-Pierre, Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Public Service of DRC, and His Excellency Professor Manasi Nshuti, Minister of State for East African Affairs, representing the Republic of Rwanda, and Dr. Peter Mathuku, Secretary General of the East African Community, and Honorable Sadio Kamara, Minister of Defense of the Republic of Mali, for honoring us by positively responding to my invitation to be with us on this occasion. This is part of Undugu. Thank you so much. Mbasaside, have you survived the speech? Muchariwo? Katolebazigo, oba muonye speech eno. Asante sana kama ukuvumilia hii hotuba ndefu kiasi hiki. 30 pages. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Indeed,